Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Barden here. Today I'm going to be talking about how we can record audio in Macs and different ways that we can use that and just benefit from it in just a variety of options. So I'm just going to dive into it and we're gonna see where we end up going there. So I've got the main object that we use for this SF record tilde right here, and that is sound file record. As I've also got the help patch for it loaded up over here on the right side of my screen. So as it says in the help patch, it records an audio file onto your disk, so it will take the audio, save it to your computer, and then you can do whatever you really want with it. So I'm just going to go through what's in the help patch first, and then we'll demo some of what's going on and just kind of explore it there. So the very first thing you need to do is tell Macs, hey, we're going to be saving a file, get ready to do that. So if you say open is the message that you send to SF record, it will open a dialog box, and you can choose where it gets saved and what it's named, as well as the type in the dialog menu that pops up. Again, if you're using Mac, that's the word, a Mac, it'll be the Mac dialog window right here, so you can just go through that as normal. Just choose where you're saving it, what you're naming it as, and the file format. So I'm gonna just do this as a default. We'll save it to my desktop, why not? And I'll just call this SF video, and I'll make it a wave. And if we hit save, you'll see, if you notice, that over here on my desktop in the corner, it made that file. However, at the moment, that file is empty. We have not actually recorded anything to it. Effectively, Macs has just allocated a little bit of our system memory and said, hey, this file's going to be here. It exists. And now we can then save stuff to it. That's what's happening there. I'll show you a way that you can set that up without needing to go through all of the dialog boxes. But just know that the command, in order to save anything, the first thing you have to do is open up and create the file that you're then going to save your audio recording into. The next thing is to turn on your audio processing right here and connect your microphone if you're using one. The way they have this set up here, it's doing a stereo recording, but I'm only, my microphone's mono, so it's just popping up on the one channel. But if you are recording things with a microphone, this is where you would work with that. In order to connect a microphone to your computer, you're going to need a few things. The first is the microphone. It can be a USB mic. I don't want to go get my USB mic at the moment, but you can go get that and just plug it into the USB port on your computer. Another option, one that I would recommend a little more if you have it, is to use an audio interface, which is just the box that's responsible for getting audio into and out of your computer. They'll do more than that, but that's kind of the consistent thing that all of them do in different ways. And then hook up whatever microphone you want, so that way you can get, as good of a microphone as you want for any of this. In order to set Macs and make it so it can actually see your microphone, if you go up to the top under options, there's a few things here, but this is probably the most common thing you'll click on under options is audio status. If you click that, it's going to open up this window right here. So right now it's orange because it's like, hey, you were doing stuff, but now you're editing it, so some things are paused effectively. But this is where you can set, I'll come back to the top here, but the sample rate, buffer sizes, things like that, all right here. If you wanted to set a limit to the amount of CPU usage that Macs can use, this is also where you would set that. At the top, you can choose, hey, what driver are you using? If I'm on a Windows device, so there's a handful of drivers here, but if you need a specific one, that's what you do it. So if your interface has a driver, this is where you would select that. On Mac, you pretty much would just select the default option for audio right here, and boom, you select that. Clock source. So when you have a lot of digital devices all working together, again, it's very important that each of them is operating at a clock speed and doing what they need to do. And in my case, I'm setting that clock speed to be 48 kilohertz right here, and that's what says, hey, we're going to take an audio sample, and then we're going to wait a little bit and take another audio sample, and so on and so forth. That's how the computer can sync everything up in order to properly record and play back audio files. So having this set is very important. However, it's important that you have the clock source also set, because let's say you've got your computer, you've got your interface, maybe you've got a third thing, maybe it's an effect, or you have an expansion to, my cat's going nuts in the corner, an expansion to your interface, anything like that. Just the whole point is you have another, other devices that are digital in nature. They each have their own independently inbuilt clock, which is great. However, there is nothing normally that lets the clocks sync together. So even though they're all running at 48 kilohertz, having, one may be, have started, 5 minutes ago, one may have not started, one may have just started a second ago. They aren't in sync with each other. So that clock source, that's what that's controlling is, hey, we're going to pick one of these devices and make it be the main clock that every other device connected to it is going off of. If you see something called world clock, that's usually with a coaxial cable that you can plug into a bunch of stuff. That's effectively just a clock, and it sends out that clock signal, and everything can look at it. In my personal setup, I've got my interface is the main clock source, and then the computer and the expansion that I have for the interface to add a few more inputs to it all follow that interface. And depending on how you set it up, you may change what happens here, but I mean, there's usually not a lot of options. I'm just kind of explaining what it is and why you should care. Output limiting, you can have it limit the output and avoid clipping and things like that. That's really good for live situations. May or may not be what you want if you're like creating stuff in the studio, but that's what that's there. I just leave mine as off. Last but not least, the part that you actually probably care about are down here at the bottom. So this is where you can choose the input and output channels. So by default, it's got 2 there, but we can open up this and you can actually see I've got up to 16 at the moment I can work with, which in this case would be the main part of my interface, and then I think that's a talkback channel. I don't use the loop a lot, but then all the digital inputs and outputs from that expansion I mentioned. So you can pick and choose, and basically you just click on that one and choose, hey, on input 11, what do you want that to be? And you pick and choose. It looks like I can actually go up to a whole 20 at the maximum, but it only will list 16 right here. But this is great because this will choose what channels the microphone is looking at. So if I changed this one to also be channel 1, now you'll see over here, since we're looking at channel 1 for both of these, input 1 for both of these channels, they're going to be the exact same left and right. I'm going to put this back to input 2 because otherwise I'm going to get very confused later on down the line as to why I don't have the stereo setup that I'm expecting. But just know that that's how you can do that if it's really bugging you that this is only coming out the left. Last but not least, over here, actually I guess second to last, I haven't talked about that button, is the output. So if you're using just the built-in sound card of your computer, that's basically like, hey, you've got your speakers, maybe you've got your headphones. That's about it. It's whatever output options you have. On my interface, I have it hooked up from over there into a mixer, which I don't think you can see. No, you can't see from the video, but I've got a big mixer hooked up here, so I've got a whole bunch of outputs from the computer going into the mixer, so I can do said mixing. So that's why I have mine set to 9 and 10, because those are ones I don't really use for anything else other than just computer audio. So I have these faders to control just my like all my computer outputs, so games, videos, anything I'm doing through the computer. That's what that is by default. But I could set it to any of these other ones. So if I wanted faders just for Macs, then I could set that here and just control it with two separate faders for Macs specifically, and it's not being affected by anything else. So that's what's going on right there. Audio driver setup. Basically, it just runs through the setup process. I think you can see a little notification of, hey, your driver, it did this thing, and it sets the settings. Basically, it takes the settings you've got here and forces them and makes sure that your driver's up to date. That's what we've got going on right there. Very long-winded explanation of step 2, but if you are using a microphone, it's important that you actually can connect your microphone into your computer and let Macs see it. That being said, you do not have to use a microphone. You can use any audio signal and save it right here in SF Record, which is what I'm going to try to do towards the end of this video. But so that's that part right there. So we're going to try to save some data and use it later on. But from there, you just have to toggle the send a 1 to the SF Record input here, input number 1, and it will start recording until you turn off the toggle. Then as it says there, toggle stop recording and close the file. So right now, this audio file down here is open in Macs. I can't do anything else with it. So I have to toggle record, turn things off. You can also send a message that just says record and has a duration in milliseconds. If you know I'm specifically recording a 3-second clip of this audio, because I'm going to use it elsewhere, you can say, hey, record for X amount of time, and it'll automatically stop it after that point. The main argument right here is the amount of channels that you have, and I think it can do something excessive, like up to 64 channels. And we'll look at that in a second. But in most cases, 2 is stereo, left and right. The one I have over here just defaults to 1 channel right there. And then at the very end, it's going to output I don't know why it's over there, a signal that shows the elapsed time in milliseconds. So if you hook up a number tilde box here, you can see that as we go. And that's just the amount of time that you have been recording. So if I click this button, it's now recording me talking about clicking this button as an audio file. You can see the milliseconds that have passed, and it's going, ha 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 ha, and I'm going to stop it right now. And everything stops. We have now recorded an audio file. So if I wanted to take this and drag this into Macs, I'll make it a bit bigger so we can see it. You'll see there's the audio file right there. So if I wanted to connect this to a gain, that didn't actually autofill. Just some gains. I really should make this a snippet. I don't have it saved as one on this device, which is funny because it's the one I use Macs with the most. Channel 1, channel 2. Is it deck? And I connect those up. Now if I lock this, turn that on, and just hit play, it's now recording me talking about clicking this button as an audio file. You can see the milliseconds that have passed, and it's going, ha 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 ha, and I'm going to stop it right now. There it is. I got distracted by cat, but you should have heard all that coming just out of the left side there if you're listening in stereo. But yeah, that just recorded it as a sound file, saved it as an audio file, and now I can load it up in any way that, like I talked about previously and use before. So this can become very powerful in a lot of ways. My cat is Skim is currently having fun trying to get comfy behind the monitor, which is pushing the camera. Skim. Okay. So if the camera goes away, then Skim has just decided to nudge it just enough. But let's see. So yeah, that's just because I had no object. So that's the basis of how you record things. You go and you make that SF record object. You tell it how many channels you're going to be recording. You hook up your microphone. You tell it. You say, "Hey, let's record." You got your file. There you go. There's a few things that you can do to further customize what's going on. You may have noticed over here in the comment that it says it defaults to AIFF type. So you can tell it to pick different file formats, which is something I mentioned in that drop-down menu, but you can actually do it in Max itself, which is very handy. So I'm going to use this one over here as the example. I'm going to keep it as a single channel option for right there. So single number of input channels, but we've got a whole bunch of attributes we could potentially work with, but we'll come back to that later. But if you hop over here to types and formats, this is where we can really start to customize how it's happening. So if you send in a message that says open wave, open insert audio file type here, it will automatically create that. So I like to work in wave files in 99.9% of the things I do. So I'm gonna be doing that as a way to create things. So if I were to make a message, go here and it'll say open wave. If I click that, you'll see that it opens up the desktop and it opens Wave right there. I don't know why SND is the default file name. That seems new, but I'm not sure why that's the default file name. It's popped up twice now. But you can say, hey, open that. The third argument, though, will save you even more time, and that is you can give it the file name just right in this message. So if I wanted to call this video recording 2, and if I just click this, I should just open it. I don't know where. I guess it didn't default it to the desktop because it's not popping up right there. If a file name argument is applied, a file in the current default directory or the location specified by the file name path will be created. The type can be affirmed from the, or it can be, okay, so a few things here. I think that's where I goofed it. So first thing, I guess you technically don't need Wave after the fact. If you have the file name, you just have to include the thing here, so .wave, but it says it puts it in the default directory, which is cool. That's great. That is if you were to go on back to our options menu and go to file preferences. This very first one, that is the default directory, which is the user Max8's library. I think it's that one. That's the main user. I also have a global library. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can create pathways for. But if I'm right, we may be able to say, can I say this? No. Okay. So let's make a new window here, and then we will just desktop. Copy address as text. Hop back into Max. Oh, was that literally the only? Okay, I saw. There it is. Okay, it took a second. There it is. It popped up there in the desktop. So again, you can tell it exactly where to save it and what to save it as. So you can type that all into the message. So we'll set that up right there, and then from there, pretty same idea. You start the toggle, tell it to record, does its thing. There's a handful of other stuff in here that you can fine tune if you want to. But these are, like I said, these are all settings that you can set up after, before you start recording. So it's like, hey, what kind of format do you want? 64-bit floating point, integer 8-bit. You're doing any kind of resampling or manually setting the number of channels. You can set all of that independently, but it has to happen before you record it. Okay, and then before we actually record, I will just mention here, sound files with up to 64 channels are now supported. This is just going into a whole bunch of math about the buffer size, basically how much memory it saves for these recordings. I'm not going to deep dive into that because it, in my experience, has very rarely popped up. But it's important just to generally be aware that you do have to allocate a certain amount of computer memory to do all of this. So that's there. That's what that is. So let's hop back into our patch, make a toggle. Ooh, nope. So we've already opened up the file. That's great. And now we can just record whatever we want. We have to send the audio signal to this. So it can be something as simple as I forget. Okay, let's just do Anton, because that's there. So if I were to take Anton, record it there. If I turn this on, start recording, stop recording. Now I can I'll drag and drop this one. I'll drag and drop this one. Don't know why it's not letting me drag and drop, but you'll notice the waveforms look fairly similar here. And if I just press play, that was the same file. Again, you can see there was a little bit of a delay between when I started recording and stopped recording. That's just pretty much going to happen if you are manually toggling all of this stuff. You can really minimize it and scooch it down for whatever you need to do, but generally speaking, if you are manually triggering things and loading them, there is going to be a little bit of dead space on each side of what you are recording. Okay, I was just checking the time. Here we are. We're on schedule. So that's how you can record just from a microphone or just any kind of playback in Max. So again, any audio signal you can record. So this is very handy if you, let's say, for example, let's make some stuff here. So if I unlock this and I make, let's just do something really simple. I'll do a sine wave. Ooh, my speakers got a little angry. We'll connect it like that, but we'll turn this off. Don't know why it's popping so much. But anyways, cycle. We'll have that there. Let's say, let's throw a, just so we can see what it is. MIDI to frequency. Random between 127. Helps if I spell random right. Scooch this down. Make a metro. And then we'll do it. How about this? Random between 500 and 2500. Connect you there. Connect you here. And then toggle, and we'll have a default to 500. Okay, so what I have just put together in front of you is an automatic random sine wave generator. If I wanted to, we could hook it up with an amplitude envelope, but that's just more work than what we need to do right now. Just know that you know, if it's really bugging me, I may throw one together real quick, but right now it is what it is. So I've got our sounds here. So what this is going to do is it's going to, when I turn this on, Metro is going to output a bang every 500 milliseconds. That bang is going to go to two different random objects. One, I'll start with this pathway here. It's going to pick a random number between 0 and 127. Actually, this should be 128 because it doesn't include the last number. So 0 to 127. I'm going to use that as a MIDI value and convert it to a frequency in order to tell the cycle what pitch to output. This second random is going to pick, every time it gets that same bang from the Metro, is going to pick a random number between 500 and 2500. This is going to be a millisecond value that's going to then change the speed of the metronome. The end result of this will be that it's going to play random notes in random rhythms. So if I were to lock this, turn it on, we've got that happening right there. So that is doing its thing, creating sound sources. Again, we could just record this however we wanted to. If I went to new SF record, this is a stereo track. If I were to just connect this up here, create a message that says open about my random sine dot, that should be WAV, and it should say desktop / right here. So again, I'm telling this to open up in the desktop so I can easily pull it into the session. You can have it save wherever you want to do. The safest thing to do is to save your Max patch in a folder and then have everything saved to that folder. So that way it's just right there and Max can automatically see what's in that folder that the patch itself is saved in, so you don't run into any weird issues. So we're just gonna hook that up there. And last but not least, I'm going to create a trigger, not the toggle, a new T object, and I'm going to have it output a bang and an integer right here. So whenever this receives anything, which I'm going to hook up to this toggle, we are going to output in reverse order a bang first, and then an integer. So again, it outputs it in back order. So this should actually be TIB. Check out the help patch for more info on that. So the first thing, I'm going to do that. And then maybe if we delay by 200 milliseconds, just enough to be safe, we will... Oh, no, delay is for bangs. I need pipe. That's going to be for our next topic. So if I connect that to there, this to here. And then delete it. Now, what we've got is this. So you see, I clicked that, and it did trigger this to open up in the desktop. So there. Okay, well now it's recording because I forgot I was locked. So I'm just gonna let this record for a little bit, because right now it's gonna run into problems where it's not gonna actually save the file. It's gonna close it and immediately open up a new version, which is a problem. Oh no, it keeps it there. Okay, that's good to know. So that's happening. You can hear it in the background playing back. So another thing we could do is to do a variety of things. So if we wanted to, that's a great sentence I just said. A thing we can do is do stuff. Okay, I'm going to turn that off because it gets annoying. But we can set up this name here to automatically update, so that way you don't run into multiple files in the same location with the same name. That can be very problematic. To do that, what I would do is to say, how do we want to do this? Basically, we just have to generate a number and tell it what value, and add that into the name. So we'll ultimately need pack right here in order to combine things up. But we're going to need to say, probably in a message, / my recording. Basically, I should just combine these things up into one. And I'm kind of going off the deep end there. That may be a separate class, but you can arrange it so that way this message changes. And effectively, we're filling in the with that $1, that variable where you would just feed in the number and it would go in. That is the general idea I'm going for. I'm decided I'm not going to do that in this video because that's, again, a little unrelated to what I'm focusing on there. But if that's something people want to see, let me know. I'll show you how to do that in a more dedicated, planned out method. But the way I set this up here was this. Let me just kind of rearrange some things in order to kind of maybe make the signal flow a little bit easier. So this is down here. This all lives here, and the toggle there. So okay, let's also just get some of these patch cables out of the way. There we are. Helps when I hit the right button, just so we can kind of at least see the objects a little bit more clearly. So if we follow the signal pathway, it all starts with this toggle. When the toggle is turned on, it is going to send a bang to this message, which tells SF Record to open up this file. That's going to be the first thing that happens out of this TIB right here. We're then going to send the 1 message, the fact that it's actually toggled, to turn on to SF Record and the metronome at the same time. But in order to give the computer just a little bit of time to get that file up and going, I've delayed that message by 200 milliseconds. You don't strictly need this, but if you remember from before, it took a second for that audio file to actually get made. So I was like, let's just throw in a little buffer just to be safe. That way we know we don't lose anything. But again, you don't technically need this. You could just go directly from this outlet into Metro and SF Record. But from there, that toggle, again, it tells SF record, hey, start recording. And that's going to happen until we toggle it off and send it to 0. The metronome's going to get turned on, and like I mentioned before, it's going to output a random pitch and a random duration for the next note. Or I guess technically it is for that note. It updates periodically, but we then convert that to a frequency and send that to the cycle, which is going through these gain sliders. And then everything that's going through the gain sliders is going into SF record. This other one up here is independent. So that's generally what is going on there. So we can, again, just with a single button, control a bunch of different stuff just by routing the data to different places and using it in the same way. It's the same, all of this is just 1 and 0 right here, and we're setting it up to respond to that same 1 and 0 in order to record whatever it is our patch is doing. So the last thing I want to do in this video is to use this to save a recording of an LFO, and then use that to control something. This part's completely unscripted, but yeah, we'll see. So instead of my random sine.wave, let's just make it, let's say vibrato LFO.wave. And I'll even make it smaller by saying vibe.lfo. Like there. And actually, let's do it like this. Let's old. I'll put this in a sub patch here. So that way, when I make this patch available to everyone, you'll be able to see this older version off to the side, because I'm going to be changing all of this, but this has some good stuff that you all should know about. So let's tweak this up just a bit. I've got my sine wave right here. That's great. I'm still going to keep this randomness happening, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But what I'm wanting to change is the some vibrato with an LFO. That's going to be our ultimate end goal. But to do that, we have to generate an LFO signal. So I'm just going to create a new cycle tilde, and I'm just going to say 6 hertz. I'm just kind of arbitrarily picking that right here. So if I were to connect this up, and then I'm going to just, without having to have things get in the way, let's just make an independent. No, we'll use the same toggle. No, actually, right now that's bad. So for now, if I were to turn this on, open up the file, and record it for just a little while. I've realized this cycle is still outputting 110 hertz, so we're gonna set this to 0. Open up the file again, re-record it. So we can't hear anything because it's way too low, but you can kind of see the meter in the corner bouncing up and down. That's going to be our vibrato speed. Okay, that should be enough. And we'll turn that off. If I drag and drop this, if I unlock this and drag and drop it in, we have our LFO.wave file right there. Cool. So now we just need to work this into our cycle and combine the two of them together in order to create things. And I'm going to cheat just a little bit. I've got in my drive, if I remember right, my vibrato patches from before. And we're just going to look at that as a place to start. Right there. So Yeah, that's what I figured. It's always nice to have just multiple patches for reference materials. It's outside of the classroom environment. It's very rare you have things like this. Everything in the world memorized. So we're just going to combine this with what we have going on here. Basically, turn one into the other. Only instead of this cycle here, we've got our LFO recording. So let's see. Let me go into more of the main version and not the tool version as well. Just because that one was set up for inputs and outputs, and that just has more stuff going on. Okay, so if we basically just combine these two things together, we'll get that going. So here's the so this will be our main sound source here to replace saw, and I'm gonna get rid of all of these patch cord segments for now. So there's the saw. If I combine this with plus tilde, into another number from a multiply tilde by 2. This has another float connected. This should actually be a float instead. And then this comes into there. Leave that at 2. I'll leave that as is, but theoretically now we should be able to have some vibrato. Again, this is completely off the cuff. So let's see what has happened. So if I take that, and we'll just call this test 1. Definitely not hearing anything. Oh, wait. Maybe. I think this... There we go. So I realize now that picking these random durations, we can actually hear if there's any vibrato happening. So we're going to delete that. This is going to be Metro 5000. So it's kind of there. It would probably be a little bit of tweaking, but this idea that we can basically save an audio file. Anyway, I can really turn this one up. And we're just playing with, if we're really breaking it down into some modulations that are happening if we're getting really specific. But that can create some unique sounds. And what I really wanted to get across was that you can save your signals your control signals as an audio file and just play those back. So you'll notice that I was able to just easily toggle between these effects. by simply triggering the playback for that on and off. So if you're if your signal was controlling vibrato, that's an easy way to just turn it on and off by playing that file back. If you're controlling, amplitude envelopes or frequency sweeps, you can save that motion as a sound file and then just play back that sound file into your patch, and it will be an on cue repeatable thing. So again, if I had as one final option, maybe let's make a real simple line tilde object, and this will be a frequency envelope for our cycle object. So if I let's just say we're going to start at 0 to start with, and let's go from 0 to how many hertz? Let's say 1000 hertz over 2500 milliseconds, and then we'll go down to 500 hertz over 500 milliseconds, up to 3000 hertz over 1 second, back down to 1000 over 5 seconds, and back to 0 over 20. That should do our thing. So if we click this, and if I wanted to hop into here, let's say instead of video recording 2, this is frequency envelope dot wave. If I connected this up into here, just got rid of that. If I lock my patch, open this up, frequency envelope here, start recording, trigger that. I should have had a way to actually look at it, but I realized this was going to take 2, 5, 6, 11. It's probably been about enough time. I'll wait a little longer and turn that off. We should have been able just to save that as an audio file. Don't really know if we'll be able to hear it, but we should be able to if I just drag and drop. Maybe not. Oh, wait, I didn't start the audio. That's it. We're going to do that. Now that I've started audio, I'm going to unload. Now I'm going to wait about 15 or 20 seconds. And we'll say that's about done. Give or take about now. We drag. I didn't want to duplicate that. I wanted to replace it. Just to see there. But now let's see if I create a new cycle object. Like so. If I connect this up to here to our outputs, will we be able to hear anything? Okay. Why? Didn't like that, but that's the core idea. Fine, let's just do a frequency sweep. Start it from 0, and we'll go to 10,000 over 10 seconds. And then, do we need to make that as a raw? Maybe make that raw. Just see what happens. Open. There we go. And we can see that going up. Got to 10. We're going to stop it. Let me try that as a wave because it didn't want to load in just that data file. Just hover over here just to monitor it. 6. Turn the file off. This is acting up a little bit more than I expected, to be completely honest. So I'm going to have to maybe just do a little bit of research between now and class time in order to fine-tune exactly what is going on. But just double-checking to make sure that there's not stuff happening that I can't hear. No, that's all there. Yeah, all the mixer channels are... Okay. So, like I said, I don't know why I can't hear it specifically, but we've been able to save some of this as a file. If I was to open just this data file, oh, it didn't save the data. Well, that's why. All right. Oh, yeah, I'll have to look into some of that a little more specifically, but the idea is that because you were outputting it as a signal, we can use that signal as a control signal to control other things. So I was playing around with that with some vibrato, which was doing some fun, modulation type things. I was trying to get it to control frequency playback, but it was... something's acting up here. I'm going to have to do a little more digging on my side. But hopefully, for everyone watching, this has proved to be just a useful, slightly unstructured dive into everything that's kind of going on here with recording sounds, whether you are... recording with a microphone and getting audio samples. That's up to you. Oh, that reminded me of a thing I wanted to do real quick, which we'll go through at the very end, but I'll do that as like a bonus at the end. So yeah, it's either if you're recording with a microphone or things within Max, you hook it up to SF Record, you tell it where to save the file, what name to do, how long you're recording, you start, stop. There you go. You either have it by itself to use in other ways, or you can load the file back into Max and use it that way. So if I wanted to, for example, create a sub patch so I can just clean this up. If I wanted to make a buffer... Call it recvid. It helps if I spell buffer right. Buffer. And then let's do waveform, and I think it's set recvid 1. If I send that message to here, this waveform will display whatever is inside of the buffer. Let's do SF record. It's going to be a single channel thing. Boop, 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 doop, boop. And then, let's see here. Open. And you'll notice we're setting the same thing to 2 places here. Or we can. I'll just say open. Why not? Test sample dot wave. And also test sample dot wave. We should be able to record this and put it into the buffer. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything important here. Actually, no, we don't want open. We're going to want read when that's done. So if $sign I want inlet 1 is equal to 0, then we'll then bang. All right, I'm, like I said, making this completely on the fly, but if I change that to read the file, and we'll save it to the desktop slash now what we should be able to do is this. So when you send the buffer the read message, it will read that, it'll find the file, read it through, and play it there. That's the read the file. Replace might actually be a slightly better option because that resizes the buffer to match the file. So that's the one I mainly use, is replace here. So what'll happen is when I toggle this on, it will do the whole recording thing and record whatever we send into it. In my case, it'll probably be just the microphone. And then when I turn it off, so if inlet 1 is equal to 0, then output a bang. It'll bang and trigger this to open up there. So if I just said DAC, well, I don't need DAC, I need ADC. And then connect that there. And then, all right, let's try this. So if I'll turn that on, I'll shut you up. All right, so now that audio is all turned on. Let's just say if I made a meter and connected it up there, now we can actually see the levels. That's always handy. So let's just give this off the cuff thought a try. So I'm gonna turn it on, and now I'm going to record myself. Ha 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 ha. Hello. And it didn't update that. Yeah, it's just not there. So test samp.wave. Unlock it. Drag and drop. Okay, so I just didn't record anything, which is weird because stuff's obviously coming in. Why did that not record? Yeah, nothing there. Let's just try that one more time. Hello, test, 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 test. Hello, hello. Ha 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 ha. Oh, wait. I'm just an idiot. This should also go to... I just need to trigger inlet bang. Send the bang there first. And then we toggle to that. I think that may have been what I was missing. Just no. I think that's slightly easier to read. Let us attempt this one more time. Okay, so now we can see it is recording. This is why that number object is very, very handy. Hello. Hello. Ha 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 ha. I stop. Okay, it for some reason this part didn't work. Totally fine. I only did that so we could show it. But now I've got that saved in a buffer, and we can utilize that whenever we want. So you know, play to control different things, send it to other places. You know, record it, play it back down the line if you in your sample, edit it. You know, all the kinds of stuff. Again, we're just saving it into a buffer now in Max. So hopefully this was always kind of the last little side thought I had, is something hopefully a little bit useful for you, because now that it's in a buffer, we can do all kinds of stuff with it. So from the last class, if I just connected this to a play object, play tilde, and we call this rec vid was the name of the buffer. Output channels 1. Now I can just say, hey, play from, I don't know, 1 second to no seconds at a rate of 5,000 milliseconds. Why not? Did I get that backwards? I missed the word start. Start. And now so that's not super audible. So let's put that back at Control E. Let's put that back at the same rate, because that's also 5 octaves lower, give or take. So all this to say that now that I've recorded something that was done in the real world, I can then edit it in real time. I could trim it down, you know, get rid of stuff I don't need. I could say, hey, only focus on certain areas, play it forwards, play it backwards. We haven't talked about like effect processing and dynamics processing yet, but we'll focus on that. It's not our last topic of the semester, but one of. But basically, now you can take in that audio source, save it into a buffer, do whatever you want with it. And again, it doesn't have to be things recorded with a microphone. It can be stuff that has all happened in Max. So hopefully this was helpful. I feel like I've said that a handful of times. This is where I'm going to end it for real now. If I think of anything as I'm talking about this, I'll make it into a separate video. But I yeah, you hope this will be a good resource for you. Check out the textbook chapter on working with the digital audio and sampled sounds. There's a lot of really good information and additional examples in there. I didn't have anywhere near the amount of time to like deep dive into the entirety of that big chunk of the textbook, so definitely look into that if you haven't, because there's way more stuff than I could even mention in class in there. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time I see you.